I'm here with Dr. Jeff Myers of Summit Ministries, and we are at the Believers Summit Turning Point Faith event. Dr. Jeff, welcome.
Thanks, Misty.
Yeah, excited to be here with you. So you just wrote a new book called Should Christians Support Israel? And I love the subtitle, Seeking a Biblical Worldview in an Impossible Situation. It's been crazy to watch the young people, especially one of the things that I have noticed is young people who are affiliating with the LGBT community are now also saying, you know, we're pro-Hamas. We just had the desecration of the monuments in Washington, D.C., flying Palestinian flags. So I'm excited to talk to you today because you wrote this book specifically for that Gen Z generation. So tell me why.
Oh, I'm happy to talk about that. By the way, I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday. I was down at Union Station. I saw that desecration myself, including a hammer and sickle on the Liberty Bell and the words Intifada Revolution. If there is any question about the real agenda behind this, those pictures should settle it. But as the Park Service erased it, it might be erased from America's memory. The thing is, Gen Z, they do not view this issue the way older adults view it.
Yeah.
Right now, for instance, back in December, there was a poll done with Gen Zers, and they were asked, do you think that the killing of 1,200 Israeli civilians and the taking of 250 hostages was justified or not justified? And the 60% said it is justified because of Palestinian grievances. So I went there, I spent time in the war zone, and came back and wrote this book to try to help Gen Z understand there are very powerful, wealthy people who are behind that agenda. The propaganda is intentional, and Israel is not the central issue.
Right.
It is not about a strip of land in the Middle East. It is about everything, everywhere. It is quite literally an attack on Judeo-Christian civilization itself. Once young adults start to understand the truth, and by the way, we found that if you can give them the facts, about 50% of them will change their mind. They begin to realize, oh, I'm being used. I'm a tool in somebody's bigger agenda. And that's a buzzkill, especially if you thought you came up with your own ideas.
Right? Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about that a little bit more because everybody thinks it is a battle over the land, but really this is a battle of good versus evil. And I was doing some research on the subject because I'm trying to be educated on it as well so that I can talk to my kids and to their friends who I see some of them their friends posting things on social media, and I'm like, you don't understand. So even Iran, and so can you talk about it a little bit more?
Well, I think it's helpful to understand this is not a geopolitical issue. It is a theopolitical issue. It is about competing worldviews. The worldview behind this group, Hamas, which is the enemy of Israel and also the enemy of the Palestinian people. No one should ever forget that. The worldview behind them is from Iran. Iranians, leaders at least, believe, and they're Shiite Muslim, that means they believe that there will come someone who is a direct descendant of Muhammad al-Mahdi. He will be the 12th Imam, and he will control the entire world and turn it into an Islamic caliphate. The only thing standing in the way of that is the existence of the State of Israel. So they will do whatever they can to eliminate the State of Israel. The people in Hamas, they don't believe all that Shiite stuff, but they do believe that Israel needs to be eliminated, so they're convenient partners. If you understand that this is a radicalized kind of what we call Islamist theology, then you'll start to realize this is not what it's being portrayed as being in the media. Virtually, when I wrote this book, virtually every fact that Hamas had given that I tried to trace down turned out to be a lie. The number of deaths, the amount of food aid that had gone in, everything they said was a lie because tactically they believe they can get world opinion on their side. In fact, Khalid Mashal, who's sort of a godlike figure in Hamas because he survived his assassination attempt. By the way, he's become a billionaire by grifting international aid that was designed for destitute Gazans. He said, People die in revolutions by the millions. That's just the way it is. He just literally does not care if every single person in Gaza dies as long as Israel gets annihilated. That's really the issue behind the issue. So we have to somehow understand, we want to feel sorry for beleaguered Palestinians. We need that government to change. Hamas cannot be allowed to have a military, and Israel does in fact have a right to exist and defend itself.
Yeah, so what would you tell a young person sitting here, should they support Israel? What would you say, and how would you convince them that they need to support Israel?
Well, the first thing is, I want to go back to the history of the land. Only Israel has ever established a nation state in that land with Jerusalem as its capital. It's been an administrative district of other nations, but only Israel has ever had that. The modern state of Israel has direct ties to the ancient nation of Israel in its belief system, its basic law, based on the book of Deuteronomy, its existence as a Jewish state, all of those things. Israel has a right to exist. Anti-Semitism doesn't mean that you don't criticize Israel. Anti-Semitism means that you believe that Israel doesn't have a legitimacy. Okay, so Israel has a right to exist. Second thing, as long as Hamas is in the picture, there will never be peace. So Hamas is not only at war with Israel, Hamas is at war with the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian group in the West Bank. And there are a lot of key terms here that kind of get thrown around, but they are the enemy. As long as they field the military, as long as they try to govern, they will continue to indoctrinate people in the most horrific ideology that you can imagine. And then third, as a Christian, I tell people, God is not done with the Jewish people.
Right.
That as Christians, we are inheritors of a covenant that goes all the way back to Abraham. That God will bless them, and through them all nations of the earth will be blessed. So we get to participate in that. In that way, the Jews are our brothers and sisters. I want everybody to come to faith in Jesus. But I recognize that in supporting the nation of Israel, I'm actually supporting my Jewish brothers and sisters at this critical time because I'm part of that same covenant.
Yeah, we all are, if we are in Jesus, right? Goes back to our father Abraham. I think we learned that back in Bible school, right? So, Dr. Jeff,
Yeah.
thank you for the work that you do. I want to talk a little bit, real quick, before we end here, about the work that you're doing with Summit Ministries, because you have a passion for young people and giving them a biblical worldview. So I know that you have been doing a summer program for young people, and tell us about some of the other programs that you're doing at Summit Ministries to educate and help young people.
We run on two tracks, and you can find out about both of them at summit.org. The 11-day summer experiences that you mentioned are continuing through the end of August. Every year, these programs bring young adults together who already have some leadership initiative to train them in a biblical worldview so they can be strong leaders who will stand for truth and be courageous in these times. The other part of his curriculum courses, though, for homeschool families, Christian schools, now even in 300 public schools.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It is 300
Yeah.
public schools in 12
That's
states.
great.
Students can take time away from their classes to study biblical worldview with Summit Ministries through a thing called LifeWise Academy. And those programs will help any young person find answers to their tough questions about their faith, stay strong in their faith, and then ultimately become leaders. And it's highly effective. We study our students even 10 years out, and 85% of them stay strong in a biblical worldview. 85%, as opposed to 1% of their generation.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm so thankful for the work that you do. So thanks so much for being here on Spark Media Conversations.
Absolutely,
and
thank you. And if
love
anybody
the work
wants
you
the
do.
book, I will just send it to them. Should Christians support Israel, just go to summit.org/Israel and I will give you a copy.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Misty.